The only player that Trajan Langdon is drafted on this team that's a lottery pick is Ron Holland. Everyone else, those aren't his guys. So that means that they're not necessarily safe outside of a Cade Cunningham and probably Ausar Thompson.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man, because I've been telling people that listen to this podcast for the last year and a half. I said, you guys, there's going to be a big move. I know it's going to happen. It's on the horizon. It's going to happen. You can't keep every single one of these players because it gets expensive contractually. It's going to happen.
Well, and especially too, like all these teams that are in these tax aprons that are going to be looking to make changes. But on top of that, like I truly think the second Jason Tatum's Achilles was torn, the entire landscape of the league changed from that night forward. Because as unfortunate as it is, you have to look at that window as an opportunity if you are a young team. Like, no disrespect whatsoever to the Indiana Pacers, but I think you rightfully, if you're Cleveland, if you're like Orlando, like if they get things right, like if you go out and you make the right move, if you go get your Pascal Siakam type player, what's to say you can't be in that same situation, at least even like pushing towards like the second or third round? If you're the Pistons, if Cade takes the jump that we all expect, if guys on the Pistons, take jumps that kind of we all expect, and then they go out and get the right player, I'm not saying the Pistons are going to be a finals team, but is it crazy to say that they could be a semifinalist in the East next year?
Man, I thought they had a real shot this year.
Yeah.
You get a foul call. You have to, Tim Hardaway hits those free throws. You go back to New York where outside of, game one, you battled them each and every game and gave them fits. Who's to say you couldn't advance to the second round? And then, Trajan had mentioned it earlier this year. Like, he didn't really see this team as a playoff team, but I think you just have to tip your cap to JB and the way he got them believing and how they can beat anyone on a night-to-night basis. And I'm glad you brought up like Orlando and the Phillies and all those other teams, not Toronto, by the way, because the Pistons have a prime opportunity.
Not Toronto.
Glad you got that. The Pistons have a prime opportunity to keep pace with the East. You don't want them not doing anything, and then you have teams leapfrogging you in the Eastern Conference. You want to kind of keep pace. So whether that's upgrading to a Naz Reid, whether that's a Santi Aldama, there was reports earlier, we'll talk about a little bit later, about a Karis LeVert. And even the guys that they're bringing in for pre-draft workout, Sean, all these guys are old. There's not one and done guy that they have worked out. They're all 22, 23-year-old seniors. So I think that tells you a lot of their approach is they're looking for contributors. They're looking to get better. They don't want to just kind of sit there and not do a damn thing. They want to continue to get better and compete in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the time to take flyers is over when you have a guy that's going to be in all NBA conversations for years to come, like a Cade Cunningham. And I know a lot of people, like when Cade made all NBA, I know there was some trepidation at first because that meant that he was going from taking 25% of the salary to 30% of the salary. But when you have that level of clarity of knowing that you have a guy that can be an MVP candidate, you pay that price every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. And when you're a franchise, like when you're a general manager or a president and you have that type of player, it is your responsibility to begin fielding a competitive team around that player and maximizing whatever that window or that potential can be. So I think between how competitive they were in this run, how special, certain players showed themselves to be, but then on top of that, just how completely different this landscape of the league could be in the next couple of months. I think it changes a lot of things. And even though, like, I'm not sure if you saw the reports, I think this is also from Jake Fisher that the Giannis talks have died down for now, as far as the, like some of the trade stuff. But even if Giannis is still on the Bucks, Dame is injured too. That's another team that is not necessarily going to be in that mix or in that consideration this year. And so that's still another team that you can clear and move ahead of. So even if Giannis doesn't move right now, which personally I don't buy, I think he's probably still going to get moved. Like there's still going to be some significant movement that happens. And unless some like mega star comes to the East outside of Detroit, I just don't see like a clear, like perennial, like favorite to be the team at the top of the East next year. Not even Cleveland, with kind of how things ended there.
Yeah, I mean they're shopping Darius Garland,
Yeah.
and they want to build around Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell. So there's a lot of kinks
Interesting. It
that
wasn't the coach's fault this year.
no, yeah, you can't blame JB. Glad he's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I could see why the Pistons might want to be aggressive this offseason. I could understand it. I could see it. Even though they've said, we've preached patience, but that was over a month ago. A lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
You get reports every day of like what teams want to do. So it'll be interesting to really see like what does happen this summer, because I know we're 2 weeks away from the draft, and then it's free agency, then it's summer league, and then it's completely dead season after that. So
Yeah. And I still think like we're going to largely see like a lot of continuity. I still think we're going to see a lot of the same core still intact, but I do think you can still like bring in a Nas Reed or, someone like that and carry in continuity. Like I don't think you have to make terribly drastic of changes. So I think I think it'll be somewhere kind of in the middle of making a big move and keeping continuity.
yeah, same here.